and you can quote this on me. There is no way the Orioles or Red Sox make the playoffs this season. Yeah, yeah. There's no way. There's no way.
I set the bar really low at the NBA predictions.
I don't think all Mavs fans look into the stats like I do.
It's not the great value Target brand toilet paper or whatever. It's the Charmin Ultra Strong.
I don't know if Nick Nurse is the coach for the Raptors. I don't know if he's the reason why they won the 2019 championship. I feel like that was more of a team effort.
The Mavs cannot say we do not miss Seth Curry shooting threes.
This questions the firing of Dwayne Casey, who I think is a very underrated coach.
To me, the Capitals really pushed all their chips for this season.
Hello, I'm Mike Grimes, and you've been listening to Outsiders Opinions with Kevin and Austin.
What's up, y'all? Welcome to, I would say, Sports Opinions. This does apply to the NBA and MLB, and this has happened in the NFL. But this is a topic created by we've seen some pretty bad losing streaks in, I would say, this year, even though the Pistons was in 2023, and then you have the White Sox. They did end their 20 game losing streak.
It was 21.
Oh, it was 21. And then you have the 26 game losing streak. And of course, it's bad for the season. To me, it shows something that needs to be fixed in the future. And the man that has a different take, Austin.
I don't necessarily know how bad losing streaks are at the end of the day for a team that isn't that great. Especially if they know they're not going to make the playoffs. Again, if you say something to fix, well, they're bad. Obviously, there's something that needs to change, something that needs to fix. You need to get better players on the team. Players that can actually contend for a playoff spot, contend for at least a 500 record. But those teams that finish near the bottom of the standings and don't have a long losing streak, like the example I gave Kevin before we recorded, is between the Wizards, who won 15 games, and the Pistons, who won 14 games last year. Well, the Wizards' longest losing streak was maybe 13 at most, maybe 15, but still significantly less than the 26-game losing streak that the Pistons had. And I would say that the morale or the is almost worse with a team. If we go like the entire length of the season, it's a consistent low for that team that's winning one game, losing four, winning one game, losing four, that it is the team with a long losing streak. Because I believe the Pistons in, I think it was March, maybe April, went like 10-12, 11-13 or something during that month. And seeing, hey, that's almost, if you do that for an entire season, 10-12 in the East, you can make a play-in spot. So you see some success during the year for an extended period of time. Through 22 games, that was a playoff making or play-in making winning percentage. You see that you're winning consistent games, and at some point you're going to win multiple games in a row during that stretch. With the Wizards, that wasn't really the case. I don't know if it's necessarily good that they never had a 20-game losing streak or even a 15-game losing streak, because those consistent win one, lose four, it just gets repetitive. You used to, we're going to lose. More than when the Pistons lose 26 straight and then start winning and then go about 500 over a stretch, they get some confidence, hey, maybe we figured it out. Maybe we actually can win some games now. So I don't know if it's necessarily worse for a team to go through a losing streak if they're going to end up with the same record at the end of the day.
I would say, talking about, it's going to be bad vibes when you're a really bad team. But to me, the ability to not have a losing streak shows that there's something to be like, it's not super bad. And maybe a bad losing streak points to the coach and the culture that you got to fix. Because I feel
sorry to interrupt. I need a clarification question. I'll give my answer on this as well. Mm-hmm. But what does it mean to be a losing streak? What is a losing streak? Is a losing streak 2 games, 3 games, 4 games, 5 games? What is a losing streak? Or a winning streak, for that matter?
7 to 10. 7 to 10 is...
So if you lose 6 straight, that's not a losing streak?
Well, I would say I get alarmed and concerned when it reaches 7. Maybe, we'll go with 5. If it reaches 5, I would say, okay, that's a bad idea.
Bad idea?
To me, it's like, okay, because you can have 3-game losing streak, even 4-game losing streak, then you can get out of it. But once you get over that number. To me, 5, it shows that you're letting things build on each other and snowball.
Well,
in
if
a
you're looking
negative
at the
way.
win percentage for a team like the Wizards, they're about 18%. Well, 1 out of 6, if you're winning 1 out of 6 games, which could be a 1 win, 1 lose 5, win 1, lose 5, that's about 17%. So is it better to have more losing streaks during the year that are all 5 added up at some point, or have one long one that's 20? Or 26 for that matter. That's kind of my point. It's you're having all your losing streaks back to back to back. With another bad team, you're going to have losing streaks that are 5 games long, and you're going to have more of them to actually reach that total of the same amount of wins, or roughly the same amount of wins.
Yeah, I would say I would rather have them spaced out. I wouldn't want one long big one like we saw with the Pistons and with the White Sox, because to me that just shows it's snowballing and they're having a lot of trouble to get out of it, which would point to the coach doesn't know how to avoid things snowballing, because that can be, or yeah.
You go.
To me, that ability of snowballing and letting it negatively snowball, to me, shows an inability of the team. That's the grander scheme of snowballing versus if we go to the microscopic of a game. Let's say a player has a bad outing or I would say drops a ball, misses a shot. To me, that shows if you're letting yourself get into a really bad losing streak, that could show that it's hard. You can't quickly move on from a mistake because you're going to lose games. That's just the reality of even a good team. But it's how do you avoid dwelling on that mistake and moving on? And to me, that's what a long losing streak shows me the inability of.
I get sort of what you're saying, but at the same time, if you're losing 26 straight games and then go 10-12 at the end of the year, you figured something out. While if you're going 1-5 or win 1, lose 5, win 1, lose 5, win 1, lose 5, win 1, lose 5, did you actually learn anything during the entire year, even though you finished with a better record? I would say no. I would say that you never actually learned anything, and that the entire year was just a microcosm of the losing streak was a microcosm of the entire season, which that isn't the case for the Pistons. They're 26 game lose. They didn't lose every game. They figured it out during some stretches. They had some little 3 winning streaks and getting on to about a 500 record for that last 20 days of the year. So you're figuring something out during that stretch. While in the other case, you're really not. You're just consistently the same team all year, and that's a bad one. You never had those stretches where you're actually that great.
That's something that's a question I'm debating right now. Would I want a team that is either really productive, winning a ton of games, but also has the ability to just lose on the losing streak, like you talked about with the Pistons? To me, I don't know if that means they figured something out.
Why is that? Because it's 20 games. I feel like that's long enough to say we figured something out. Again, you went from a 20-game stretch where you lost every game to a 20-game stretch where you're winning half of them. That's a stark difference.
Yeah, to me, there's some positive value from a team that stays in the middle and is relatively consistent. It's not, to me, that shows a team that's consistent, even though it's a bad consistency, like you were talking about with the Wizards, shows that, okay, there's something to build off. I'm trying to figure out explaining it right now, but versus high floor, low floor. This guy that has a high ceiling but also a low floor, to me, is something that relates to the extreme highs, extreme lows for a team in a season. I would say I want some consistency. Even though you're not going to be a great team and you're a bad team, that something shows okay, I can build off this middle part. It becomes harder for me when I'm looking at a team like the Pistons. Okay, you had a 20-game losing streak, then you had a big winning streak. I don't understand what team you are and how do I fix that?
you're not making no changes during those 20 games that you're losing or the 10-10 stretch that you have. And I do think it's important to win, to have some success during the season. And I don't think going 1-5 is success, even if it's 2-3, 2-3, 2-3. At some point, you're going to just be a pretty bad team, and you're not actually winning that many games in a row. I get what you're saying. It is sometimes, I feel like at some point, you're losing so many games that at some point the players are just going to be like, we don't trust the coach. And that is where the point I don't want to reach. If it's still a young team, hey guys, this is going to be a bad year. We know that. Let's try to figure it out. I'm working with you. We're just trying to figure it out. And that's the understanding. That I would much rather have a 30-game losing streak and then go 15-15 over my next 30 games. Much rather than a team that, okay, we don't know if we're going to be good or not, and then go on a 20-game losing streak, because at that point you have to fight a coach. It's over. They've lost. The locker room has been lost by the coaches, staff, and the GM and all that stuff. So I do think it matters for circumstance. And again, I showing some success, especially with a young team like the Pistons, I think can be beneficial. Hey, we didn't have a great year, but you know what? When we figured it out, when we changed our lineup a little bit, when we got some guys back healthy, we had a stretch where we were okay. Now let's just try to replicate that over the entire season. 20 games is long enough. That's a fourth of the year, basically, that you can say, okay, let's just try to replicate it. Let's see what we can do. Who can we play? We've learned. We've grown. We were very bad, but that's not who we are now. With the 1-5 team, you are that. Consistency, in my opinion, isn't always good. I mean, we know the whole story with consistency doesn't mean positive. It could be bad or good. We talk about like a guy like Tim Hardaway, right? During half of the year, there was Mavs fans saying that he should be a sixth man of the year. He should be. He's averaging 19 points and playing amazing. And then by the end of the year, it's trade this guy for literal scraps. We'll take anything. And that inconsistency, if it was flipped and he didn't get traded during the mid part of the year, the Mavs would have been a much better team, right? At the end of the year during the playoffs. If its early stretch was his ending stretch, and he was still inconsistent, like just flip the last half of the year with the beginning half, and he doesn't get traded because no one wants him, and then his first half for the second half, Mavs fans would have been really happy. They'd have been fine with that. They would have taken it. But if you're always that bottom tier player, or I wouldn't say bottom tier, because if you average it out, you wouldn't be bottom tier. But I would say low bench player if you average it out, because it was unplayable and sixth man. You put that together, it's ninth man, where he's playable sort of the entire year. You're never actually going to win a lot of games with that player, right? But if the player's inconsistent, yes, you don't like him because I don't know what player we're going to get today, but there's a chance that you actually get the great one. With the bad one, with the player that's the same bottom playable guy, 8 to 10 range, where you're playing him maybe bottom of the rotation, you know what you got. It's just we got this 8th to 10th man. He can play 10 to 15 minutes and be okay at times. Well, the other guy, he's going to be the worst player on the court or one of the best ones. And if you get him on the right night, you could win a title. That's the same thing what's happened with some players that get hot during the playoffs. I think the more recent one is like Andrew Wiggins in 2022. He had a good year that entire year. But recently, he's been poor. But if you get that stretch where, okay, 4 straight rounds, Wiggins played his 4 best series of his entire career, back to back to back to back, and they won a title. But you're never going to get that of a player who's just the same thing the entire time. Now, yes, if you're great, you want them to be consistent. You want them to be, I would rather have a really good player than an inconsistent great player, because the really good player is going to give you 18 a night on good percentages and all that stuff. Well, the really where the one that could average 30 points per game for a month and an average 15, that player is a lot more detrimental, because sometimes you got to rely on him when he's bad. But with those bad teams, we'll go back to teams, you want to see that stretch of them being great. You want to see, hey, they can attain this. Let's just add a couple more guys that we know they're good, and we can see the levels that the Cade Cunninghams can reach during that stretch with bad teammates. But with the team that's consistently bad like the Wizards, there is no glimmer of hope the entire season. The entire season is we win 1, lose 5, win 1, lose 4, win 2, lose 7, win 1, win 4, Oh no, lose 4. It's just a consistent stretch of being bad. But with the Pistons, again, you're having a semblance of normalcy, of being, okay, we're a decent team. And seeing that for young guys, I think it's important. Knowing how to win at some point during the season is important. And winning 1 and losing 5 is not ever learning how to win games.
Okay. I understand what you're saying, and I like the talk about the consistent player. My question to you now, in relation to both those things, I would say both situations we're talking about, bad teams experience. In what, on the road to being a great team, what would you like to see in the progression? What would you want to see last before they get to a good team?
Are you saying...
So...
Well, I mean, like, technically speaking, I'll just say this first, and then this isn't going to be the right answers, like the answer you want to hear, but it would be a great draft pick or a great trade or a great signing that really bolsters the team into becoming something different. But I know it's not the answer you want to hear. So if you want to rephrase that a little bit.
Yes. So I'm going to say, from the team performance aspect, what would you believe shows growth? Of like, okay, they are about to be a good team.
During the same season, or like
just during
for the
a
future?
Season. Let's say 3-year timeline.
Okay.
4-year. What would make you feel better about the upcoming year? A team like the Pistons that has losing stretches, but also shows winning stretches, or a team that can't really put together winning stretches or losing stretches?
I still don't know necessarily how to answer, but I'll give you my best sort of trying to. Just comparing it to the Wizards and the Pistons. The Pistons ending the year 10-10, I feel more confident about them going into next year. Even if you didn't have the draft picks or any of the things that they've done during the offseason. We're talking ignoring the offseason. Ignoring the Wizards offseason, I would feel more confident about the Pistons because of how they ended the season. And I think ending a season strong, even if you're a bad team, is a big indicator that, hey, we didn't give up. The Wizards during the last couple 2 months after we traded Gafford, it was really bad. It was bad. It was 1-7, 1-7, 1-7, 1-7, like wins and losses. So it was definitely something that I say. It felt like it was inevitable that we would win 1 game and lose 7. And with the Pistons, they're showing some semblance of, like I said, normalcy. Where ending the season strong shows that you haven't given up on the coach, you haven't given up on the scheme, you haven't given up on your teammates. Yeah, I do think that's extremely important. Teams that are bad and then end up being good, I think end years out strong and also believe in their coaching staff and young players and teammates. I think that's what we saw with. I know I'm not a big fan of the team, but I was before they cheated, was the Astros. We go back to like 2015 Astros. That was the first year they made the playoffs. They actually beat the Yankees in the wild card game in 2015. But the couple years before that, they were really bad. But they stuck with it, and they started to win games at the end of years, and it started just to nudge their way into the playoffs to where they became a good team.
Okay. I'm going to answer my question, and maybe that will better explain the question I'm asking. My answer to the question that I would want a team that can't find a winning stretch or losing stretch, because my goal to the team is like, hey guys, we just got to learn to build off our success. So I would want a team that's winning a lot, but also losing a lot. I would want them to find a baseline, and then I would build off that. So I would want year 3, I'm going to say my team's good. There will be other moves, but year 3, the team performance. In year 2, I would want the performance to be baseline, where they're winning some games, but they're all losing some games, but they can't put together either way. And year 1 would be a team has a terrible losing streak, but then puts 10 wins together. They're putting stuff together, but they don't have that baseline. I would rather have my team have a baseline, no matter what that baseline looks like, because that shows me they're consistent, and then I would build off that for a winning team.
Again, I don't think consistency for a bad team is a good thing.
Okay.
Because it shows that their peak is extremely limited. It shows that what they are is what you see. And that's not always the case with that's not always what you want. Hey, this team could be great. This one player during this 10-game stretch played amazing. And because he played amazing, the entire team rallied around that and played really well. So maybe if you can replace that guy that's very inconsistent with a great guy that plays the same position and plays how that guy plays at his peak, like with an inconsistent player at his peak, if we can find a guy that can do that, maybe the entire team will rally around him and become a better team. So you can see how your team is going to be successful. How can this team win games? When you're bad and the baseline is 1-4, 1-4, 1-4, you don't know how you win games. Every team wins games a different way. I know people are like, oh, it's the three-point barrage. Everyone needs to make threes. Not necessarily. That's not the only way to win basketball games. In baseball, it's not every game. Not every team that wins games has either a stellar bullpen or hits a lot of homers. There's a lot of different ways to win baseball games. So figuring out, okay, when we're winning those, when we go in this stretch where we're 5-2, how did we do that? How did our team, for example, the White Sox win games? How did we do it? And then how can we make that happen again and again and again? That's how you build a team, in my opinion. Well, if you have a team that's 1-4, 1-4, 1-4, okay, I don't know how we're winning games. We're really never getting on a stretch of actual success. Sometimes we win a game because the other team gave it to us. Sometimes we win a game because we had the greatest offensive showing of all time, and that's never going to be replicated again. Sometimes our pitcher throws a no-hitter for no reason. You never actually know why you're winning those games. But if you have a stretch, again, where the Pistons go 10-10 or something of that nature, you can be like, okay, this is what we changed. I can see it. It's right here. This is what we changed. Now, how do we make it happen more? And that's where the GM comes in and say, hey, these are the players we need to add around Cade or around whoever. Cade does better with this guy or a player like this. And when that player's playing at their peak, Cade plays better. And when Cade plays better, the entire team plays better. But when that inconsistent player is doing bad, we lose 26 straight games. So it's understanding how the team works, how the team wins games. That's what you need to figure out, in my opinion. It's not consistency that you want to see. It's how do you win games? How does your team win games? That's why I think the Lions really did so well with Dan Campbell. If you remember, did the Lions in the season, not last year, either before that, with like a 6-0 streak? Yes. You know why? You know why they missed the playoffs? They went 9-8? Because they had lost like 7 weeks before that. The 7 weeks before that, they had like lost all of them, almost. But when they went on that stretch of winning, hey, this is how we do it. This is how we win those games. We weren't a playoff team. We lost 7 straight games or something like that. But now we know during that good stretch what we can do to win. And that's how I thought the Lions were going to be good last year. I didn't think they were going to be 13-4 or whatever they were. I thought they were going to be more like 11-5 or 11-6 or 12-5, something like that. They were better than I anticipated. But they found out this is how Detroit Lions football is. This is how they win games. Not every team's the same. But this is how we win games. Not many teams run 2 running backs like the Lions do. But Dan Campbell's like, this is how we won games. This is what we're going to do to win games, and we're going to win because this is Detroit Lions football. That's how, in my opinion, teams are really built. They're built through the bad stretches and then the good one. The good one afterwards is what matters, obviously. But the bad one shows you, okay, we got to change something, obviously. But it's not a negative. Losing 8 straight games isn't a negative. You're expecting to be bad anyway. You're expecting to go 4-13. Why does it matter which of those 4 games you win? But then when you had that good 4 straight games you win, okay, what was different? What was different? And that's what I look at. That's why I think it really matters for teams that need to have some sort of success during the year, or it can just be a net nothing on the year. You didn't learn anything. I don't think I learned anything about the Wizards or how we win basketball games. I think I learned something about the Pistons, though. I think I did during that last couple months.
I like the example of the Lions, and I'm going to say my point, and then I think we're going to end this episode because we just have 2 different takes on it, and I think we're just going to go round in circles again. Because I view consistency to me, no matter what, shows some level of culture of, okay, we don't let things snowball. negatively or positively, which to me, I would look at, okay, I need to add some player. I need to add a great player, and I'm going to add it. And then we're going to see what happens. But to me, I take it as positive. Okay, this team has the right mentality for it.
I don't think you want a culture that's bad, though. If you're consistently going 1-4 and 1-4, that's going to breed a bad culture. Instead of the one where I know you're going to lose 26 games and then win a couple, those ones you win feel so much better because you finally figured something out. Again, I think the culture that was built for the Lions was built through losing. I think Dan Campbell used that to kind of bolster their team. Hey, we don't want to be. Hey, we've lost 5 straight, or however many they lost in a row, because they were like 1-8 or 2-8, and then won 6 straight or 7 straight games or something like that. But they built it through losing. Hey, we're losing. We don't like this. Let's try everything possible. And they tried the stuff that lost them games by 40, lost them games by 30. In those games, you would think we're so bad, we're so this, we're so that. No, guys, we're just trying to figure it out. Let's try to figure it out. Try to figure it out. And then once you figure it out and win those games in a row, okay, now we know what we can do. These are the players we're going to draft. We're going to draft Jahmyr Gibbs. We're going to sign this guy. We're going to trade for this guy, and then we're going to be a good team. And that's kind of how I think really good teams are built. Because if you do your example where you're a consistently bad team and then add a new player, you have no guarantee that's going to work. And now you don't have a guarantee in my method either, but you have a much stronger chance of success. If it's sign Frank Ragnow or sign another guy or sign an offensive lineman or draft Penei Sewell or something like that, okay, we're going to go O-line and running. O-line and running. That's how we won games, our winning streak. We ran the ball. Now let's sign a guy that's actually going to help us run the ball better. You were winning games before running the ball. If you bolster your running game, you should win more games because that's how you're winning games before. So I do understand what you're saying, and consistency at some point is good. I just don't think it's good for bad teams.
I see your point, and the Lions are a good example of that, of just building through that. And yeah, I think that's it. To me, consistency, you can still figure out what pieces to fit in. It's easier to notice the problems in a losing streak. I'll just say this as my final point, and then I'll let you close it out, is the ability to stop the hole from being dug deep with a 20-game losing streak is positive to me. That's why I would rather have some consistency. But both are bad teams, and that's all I got. Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Austin, I'll let you close this one out.
Yeah, thank you guys. Please let us know. Is losing a lot of games in a row a bad thing for bad teams? Obviously, for good teams, we know it's bad. If you lose 10 straight and you're supposed to be the 1 seed, yes, we both agree that's horrible. But for bad teams that are supposed to win 15 games in the NBA or 50 games in the MLB, is that bad? Let us know. Thank you for listening.